Back to school and back to reality. Well, remember that? It remains etched into my psyche to this very day. With schools about to reopen this week, senior education journalist Prega Govender takes stock of the 2025 matric results. Picture this, a scale. On one end, a greater average pass rate than ever before, whilst on the other, fewer pupils are now taking critical subjects like standard maths. The concern is, when does the scale tip completely?
There has been a trend over the past few years for pupils to pursue maths literacy rather than pure maths. And it's borne out once again this year, where we had only 34.1% of pupils taking maths, with the balance, taking maths literacy. This is around 1 in 3 candidates, taking maths, which is a huge concern as expressed by the minister herself, and a lot of academics that I spoke to last night.
Later in our trending topic, car sales jump in 2025 and expect more Chinese brands to speed in soon. And finally, we remember the Orkney football derby disaster of 1991 with On This Day in South African History that's heard later in the show.
New episodes of The Lead air Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m.
In Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz for today, your question is, which country, according to News 24's well-placed sources, has been asked now to retreat its ships from the BRICS naval war games off Cape Town's False Bay coastline? Got the answer? Well, there's a big prize in store for you at the end of the show. My name's Graeme, this is The Lead, and this is the South African story. Moving to our top story today, our senior education journalist Prega Govender has set aside his rather tight deadlines at the moment, at least for a couple of minutes, to school us on the 2025 matric results while he's live from Johannesburg. Now, how's it going, Prega? Welcome back to The Lead.
Great chatting to you again, Graeme. All good.
I really appreciate it. I know it's a very difficult time of year, and the education desk at News 24 is super busy at the moment. Let's begin with the IAB private matric 2025 results. I know that they usually come out first, and it's comprised, obviously, as we understand it, mostly private schools. If we compare it to the year before in relation to the overall matric pass rate, what are the stats revealing to us, first of all, there?
Yes, great, Graeme. If one looks at the IEB pass rate declined very, very marginally. It was 89.12% in 2025 compared to 89.37% in 2024. But in saying that, these are exceptional results. With almost 90% of private school pupils passing the exams.
Wow, and the bachelor pass rate?
That has gone down very slightly as well, from 89.12% to 89 as compared to 89.37%.
Okay, so a bit of a
2024, yeah.
Right, a little bit of a decrease there. More IEB students this time around. Any issues in the exam process that was picked up?
Yeah, so basically a total of 17,413 candidates. These include full-time and part-time candidates sat for the exams in 2025 compared to 16,304 in 2024. The exams went very smoothly and there were no incidents reported.
Yeah. Private schools, obviously not the best indicator when it comes to the education system in South Africa, but which province usually performs the best? Yeah, oftentimes we sort of think, it could either be one of the main 3, Gauteng, Western Cape or KwaZulu-Natal. Was it quite difficult to quantify? Because as you look at Gauteng, there appears to be a lot more private schools writing IEB tests than it is compared to the Western Cape.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, we don't have a breakdown of the pass rate per province, but we do have figures for the numbers or the number of candidates writing in schools. So in Gauteng, for example, we had Gauteng had the lion's share with 10,421 candidates at 144 schools. And this was followed by KZN with 2,448 schools, candidates at 38 schools, and the Western Cape with 2,108 candidates at 30 schools. So you can see that Gauteng by far has the most pupils attending private schools.
Okay, and then would obviously be closely scrutinized a lot more in terms of the overall quality of the results there, but a bit skewed and difficult if we had to look at it, I think, from a nationwide perspective. Let's look at the overall public school matric results for 2025. It was a historic year, was it not? Much better results thus far, an incremental increase in the overall average pass rate. Is that right?
Absolutely, Graeme. Yeah, so this was the highest pass rate in the history of the country, and a pass rate of 88% was recorded, which was an increase of 0.7% compared to 2024. So yes, a very exciting announcement last night by the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Kwakube. Everyone has hailed these results.
So nearly 900,000 public school pupils put pen to paper. Is that more or less than the year before? I think the general theme has been that there's more students every year writing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So we had the highest numbers while writing. A huge percentage. There was quite an increase in the numbers we were writing in 2025. As compared to 2024.
But it appears that more pupils than ever before are taking maths literacy as opposed to standard mathematics. Fun fact, I'm now turning 36 this year, Prega, and I was part of the first flock that maths literacy was ever tested on by the time that I had matriculated in 2008. So I'm sorry about being the very first guinea pigs here. And I took maths literacy, full disclosure, because I'm not a maths-minded guy. I think you could guess that based on the fact that I'm a journalist here at News 24. But more pupils than ever before taking maths literacy, and that's a bit of a concern because we need our engineers, and they need to know hard maths.
Absolutely agree with you on that score, Graeme. There has been a trend over the past few years for pupils to pursue maths literacy rather than pure maths. And it's borne out once again this year, where we had only 34.1% of pupils taking maths, with the balance, taking maths literacy. So basically, this is around 1 in 3 candidates, taking maths, which is a huge concern as expressed by the minister herself, and a lot of academics that I spoke to last night. And the other concern is the fact that there was a huge drop in the pass rate for maths in 2025 from 69% to 64%. And I'm very confident that the decline in the pass rate is going to be very thoroughly interrogated in the weeks and months to come. If you look at, and this is also concerning, if you look at, the number of pupils, taking maths in some provinces, just to quickly point out that, for example, in the Northern Cape, only 18.5% of pupils took maths, and 24.3% in the Western Cape, and 25.9% in Northwest. So these are quite concerning figures, albeit the fact that while Western Cape had only 24.3% taking maths, the province performed, they were the top performers in maths in the 2025 exams.
What does it say to you, Preg? You've been covering, education as your choice beat for many, many years now. What does it reveal to you? Why is it so concerning? Do we get fewer accountants, good accountants, financial auditors? mathematicians, we get fewer engineers in future?
Absolutely. I mean, you would know. You would know. I mean that admission to certain programs requires a pass percentage in maths of 50%, 60%, 70%. So while the 34.1% of pupils took maths, it would be interesting to find out how many passed at the 50% level and the 60% level. So it is quite concerning. And, I've been reporting quite frequently, about schools deliberately, getting pupils to opt for maths literacy rather than pure maths. And, many pupils and even teachers have complained to us about the coercion on the part of principals, to get pupils to take maths literacy. The underlying reason behind that is the fact that it is a so-called easier subject to pass.
I was wondering, yeah.
Yeah. But this is definitely a question on the top of the minds of experts. For example, I spoke to Professor Bulungeni Madiba. He's the Dean of the Education Faculty at Stellenbosch University. And he was also expressing concern about the fact that only 34% of candidates wrote maths, And added to this is the issue of the declining maths performance, He actually said that, the declining distinctions and weaker performance in key gateway subjects like maths and physical science underscores the need for targeted evidence-based interventions rather than rhetorical responses. So, yes, a huge concern, and I'm hoping that departments will encourage more pupils to pursue maths literacy in 2026 rather than, pure maths rather than maths literacy in 2026.
Sure. Do you, and this is spitballing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you've pointed to this reoccurring trend or problem with some principals coercing students rather to take maths literacy. Is it because that school wants to just have an overall better pass rate to report back to the department to say, my school's doing well because we have a better number of students passing because they are theoretically taking, but they don't say it outright, but they're theoretically taking a quote-unquote easier subject, and then that therefore would be incentive enough for that school to get more funding to be better? I don't know.
First part, I would agree precisely. So I'm not too sure about getting more funding, but the main rationale behind it is, schools want to have glowing results because, remember, they are accountable to the districts. And if a school performs poorly, then you will find that district officials and circuit officials visiting the school very frequently, and they become targeted, so to speak. So they try to get these glowing results, to avoid being embarrassed by officials, which has been the case in the past, in some instances.
The overall bachelor's pass rate has dropped as well for the public school pupils and the class of 2025. Why is that? It would seem, in my mind's eye, a definite goal to want to, go to university the following year. And is there a discrepancy between those who qualified for the diploma as opposed to just the bachelor's pass?
Yes, the number of candidates, or rather, the number of candidates achieving bachelor's passes has declined from 48% to 46.4% in 2025. But the argument is that in absolute numbers, there was an increase of 8,700 candidates who achieved bachelor passes. And, what the department is saying is that, we had, for example, more than 66% of candidates achieving bachelors coming from no-fee schools, the so-called quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools. And this is very heartening and encouraging that we had such a high percentage of bachelor's passes among quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools.
And then KwaZulu-Natal came out as the best performing province. What a surprise, I think, just generally across the board, Prega. I mean, for years past, there was always this sort of silent contest between Gauteng and the Western Cape. How come the KwaZulu-Natal won first prize this time round?
Free State has been consistently the number one performer over the past few years.
Oh, right.
With the exception of 2025. But you're absolutely right. Western Cape has been featuring very prominently as well. And a huge surprise to see KZN notching up a pass rate of 90.6%, followed by the Free State with 89.33% and Gauteng with 89.06%. And, one would want to point out that, if you looked at KZN's history in the past year, especially the issue around, finances, I mean, KZN was basically nearly bankrupt, and at the end of last year, they indicated that they couldn't afford to buy textbooks for the 2026 academic year. And but despite this, the Premier, put his hand up and he came to their rescue, and we've got this 90.6% pass rate. In fact, I had a chat with the KZN MEC for Education, Mr. Sipho Shlumuka last night. And he was over the moon. He was very happy, excited. And I remember his comment, that God is on our side, and without God, we are nothing. And, the Director General of Basic Education, Mr. Matanzima Mweli, also, heaped praise on KwaZulu-Natal. He actually said that it's very heartwarming. And Mr. Mweli described this 90.6% pass rate as a miracle, because he said that it was that one province that faced the most devastating impact in terms of budgetary cuts, And he also indicated that, some of the schools there in KZN did not have money for day-to-day running expenses. And at some point, the department was told that some principals even had to arrange loans to get schools to run.
Sure.
So, despite these hurdles, it's pleasing that they have notched up 90.6% pass rate.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And it's like those success stories, I mean, us in the media really need to trumpet a lot more when they do come across our desks. So a huge round of applause to KwaZulu-Natal. It's fantastic to see. Let's turn to this argument, Prega, and I'm so desperate to hear your general view here, that the main measure of how well our matrics perform every year should be about how well they performed in difficult subjects like maths. Do you agree with that, given South Africa's unique history? We're one of the most unequal, if not the most unequal country globally. And how does Minister Khwagube's department, although celebrating this great historic high that it's the best pass rate we've ever seen, but how does it sort of counter this depreciating trend that more students are pushing towards, maths literacy as opposed to standard maths? I mean, how do they reverse that?
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting question, Graeme. Yeah, so there's always been, a very strong emphasis on the improvement of the pass rate in your so-called gateway subjects. Now, for example, your maths, your business studies, accounting, economics, these are all, classified as so-called gateway subjects. And, Yeah, I don't think I mentioned earlier, but also concerning is the decrease in pass rate in accounting and maths we spoke about, and also agricultural sciences. But Graeme, I think one of the more important measures, is looking at the so-called throughput rate, and this refers to in simplistic terms, the number of pupils enrolled in grade 1 and the number we eventually leave 12 years later with a matric certificate. So from the figures I saw last night, Western Cape seems to be the top performer when it comes to getting more pupils, to pass matric and retaining a larger number of pupils who entered grade 1. So, yeah, I think the throughput rate is quite a reliable indicator as well as your pass rates in your gateway subjects, which form part of this basket of indicators.
Thanks for that. I appreciate that. That's always something good to remind ourselves about. In the run up to the release of the results, I know in the past we've also had huge concerns about the leaking of exam papers. This time round, it seemed very sort of isolated, specifically to a couple of schools or a handful of schools in Pretoria. There was one particular matric exam paper leak there. There was some consternation with this court case also about the publishing of the results publicly in publications. But that was all sort of quite quickly cleared up for the most part. And it's kind of like all in the past now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but just to come back to, the paper leakage or the breach in the exams, I want to actually, commend the department for acting very swiftly and in appointing this so-called National Investigative Task Team. So basically, Graeme, we had 8 schools, and it's been confirmed now that there's about 40 learners in these 8 schools who were implicated in, gaining access to 3 different question papers, namely your English home language paper 1, 2, and 3, Maths paper 1 and 2, and Physical Science paper 1 and 2. So on Friday, the minister released her findings on that. And where we are at now is, disciplinary hearings, which will start or be instituted against these 40 pupils. And what has happened is that the results of these 40 pupils in these subjects or in the affected subjects have been blocked. So whilst pupils receive their results today, these 40 affected candidates would not have received results for these 3 papers.
Sure. One other thing that also changed this time round, Prega, was that universities only got the results 24 hours before the time as opposed to previously, which was 3 days. How so did this change this time? It seems like there were a couple of firsts this year.
Yeah. No, Graeme, basically what happened there was that before the release of the 2024 NSC results, a private company managed to get hold of the results and was actually allegedly selling the results to candidates.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the department came down very hard and decided that from this year onwards, the universities would be only given a day. The results a day in advance rather than 3 days. So that has been the situation.
A little bit too early, but I know schools are obviously returning this week. And Prega, I don't know what your commute looks like to the Randburg studios in Josie, but here in Cape Town, if I have to leave the northern suburbs, I have to take an hour into my life before I can reach the Media 24 building on the foreshore, because traffic is just horrendous, and I'm dreading the fact that schools are returning and there's going to be so many more cars on the road and it's going to delay traffic by so much. But putting that aside, how good and do you have a measurement of the current school readiness, particularly in our major nodes, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape at this stage, or are we still waiting for some answers from the various MECs?
The last I heard was in Gauteng, we had about 5,000 unplaced learners in grades 1 and 8, but I'm almost certain that figure would have been drastically reduced. And in the Western Cape, the figures since 1st November 2025, the Western Cape indicated it received 10,666 late applications and 5,873 were new late applications, and a further 4,035 were new late applications in December. And between January 2026 up to the 7th of January, they had a further 758 new applications, new extremely late applications. So it seems that these pupils will have to be accommodated. But unfortunately, we don't have the latest figures just yet. I'm suspecting that they should come through by tomorrow when schools reopen.
Right, and then we start getting the reports about readiness in various districts. Prega, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to spring one surprise question on you as we end off. Your biggest lesson to take out of matric class of 2025 and covering it for all of these years? What is the big lesson that you walk away with that you go, we really need to do this one thing better in future? Your view?
Yes, yeah. In fact, I'm actually very heartened to that we had this phenomenal 88% pass rate. When I spoke to some of the education experts, they were quite spot on as well. I mean, they expected a slight decrease or a very slight increase. So the fact, and I was gobsmacked with the fact that all 75 education districts achieved a pass rate of 80% and over. I think this is absolutely remarkable. It's also a first in the country as well. So too, the fact that 6 of the 10 top education districts were in KwaZulu-Natal. So these are really very heartening statistics. I have no problem with the bachelor's pass rate as well. I think, as many education experts have indicated, we are on the rise. The education system is stabilizing. And Mr. Matanzima Mweli also mentioned last night that next year we are getting ready to achieve 90%. So this is really great news for the country as a whole. And I'm very heartened, as I said, by this 88% pass rate.
And I think that's an excellent note to lock off our conversation. I really do appreciate it. That's Prega Govender, our senior education journalist. I would like to call you an analyst because I think you've got all your facts lined up so perfectly. I really appreciate your time on the show, Prega. It's been an absolute blast chatting with you. And I'm going to distill your positivity about the results and let that sort of project well into 2026. Thanks so much for your time on the lead.
Thanks, Graeme. I mean, it's been a real pleasure chatting to you as well. And all the best for 2026.
You're listening to the latest edition of The Lead on News 24 with Graeme Rowenheimer. If you've got an opinion on what you've heard so far, drop us a short voice note on our WhatsApp hotline. That's 072-562-3179. Trending topic.
Moving to our trending topic, and it definitely feels like there are more cars on South Africa's roads than ever before, but maybe that's just a Cape Town problem. Well, the Automotive Business Council, or Naamsa for short, now reports that passenger vehicle sales jumped by a whopping 20% in 2025. You can see many of us were out Christmas shopping because December recorded the highest number of car buys. Naamsa says several factors, including inflation dropping, interest rate cuts, the two-pot withdrawal system coming into effect, gave more of us an appetite to finally procure new wheels. Most of these new brands, though, come from the Asian market, with predictions that Indian and especially Chinese companies will continue to flood the African market with their imports in 2026. Already, 13% of South Africa's vehicle market share now lives with Chinese brands, including GWM, upsetting traditional giants like BMW. Naamsa has revealed that 6 more Chinese brands are set to expand or launch in this country in the coming year. Yet, as News 24 Business's Naila Ibrahim reports, only one Chinese company, BAIC SA, assembles vehicles locally, with promises by Chery to do the same soonest. Any thoughts on the matter? Drop us a comment below.
And finally
ending off with On This Day in South African history, that's the 13th of January 1991. On this very day, a pre-season friendly between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates sadly turned tragic at Oppenheimer Stadium near Orkney. The 23,000-seat venue was dangerously overcrowded at the time, with reports suggesting that more than 30,000 fans were allowed in. Supporters were not separated, and after Chiefs were awarded a controversial goal, violence then broke out. Fighting inside the stadium triggered a deadly stampede as fans tried to escape. By the end of the day, sadly, 42 people were dead and around 100 others injured. One of the darkest moments, certainly, in South African football history. Time now for Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz answer, and we asked which country, according to News 24's WellPlay sources, has been asked now to retreat its ships from the BRICS naval war games currently due to take place off Cape Town's False Bay coastline. Well, that answer is Iran. Sources say Tehran accepted the request over the weekend, all just as South Africa's possible inclusion or exclusion in a renewed AGOA agreement is debated over in the United States. In short, our geopolitical drama certainly continues. If this was your answer, congratulations. You scored the grand prize of nothing. It's pointless. You don't get anything. My apologies. But you might get the quiet satisfaction of sounding very informed around the Braai place. Some say that's priceless. Anything on your mind? Drop us a mail, theleader24.com. My name's Graeme Robenheimer, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have the lead.